It is truly mind-boggling to me how certain individuals don't see a massive gold mine sitting directly under their nose. I mean, Breaking Benjamin is clearly the right now, so in the best interest of this channel, some people might consider this selling out, and to those people I say, bite me. The Burnley Brothers Season 3 are a hard rock band out of Pennsylvania that got started in the late 90s when a small group of guys wanted to cover a handful of Beatles and Weezer songs. Then after realizing that every bar in the country features a local band that has the exact same set list, Benjamin Burnley brought out the big guns. Interestingly, once the group drastically changed their sound, there was a brief "ha, gotcha" moment when the band went by the name Plan 9. But then after a sticky situation revolving around Ben being one frugal son of a Breaking Benjamin was born, a second time. Alright, now that we got all of that out of the way, let's jump right into their 15 best songs. I can feel you falling away. No longer the lost, no longer the same. So, my perspective on this emotional roller coaster might be off the beaten path for some people, but I've always kind of taken it as an individual wrestling with the existence of an omniscient being. And what makes this interesting is the fact that at one point, Burnley literally croons, "I'll keep you alive if you show me the way," which is basically the same as saying, "Hey God, if you're real, turn me into an actual zebra. Or make me YouTube famous." I'd accept that as well. Now, while giving God an ultimatum might be considered risky business, it's definitely not a foreign concept considering the fact that thousands of people throughout history have done so. Yes, even in the Bible. I love the vulnerable nature of Give Me a Sign, and honestly, this one song has more religious depth than 80% of the Christian music industry today. Unless my interpretation of this track is way off, in which case, I'm just an idiot trying to stick a Jesus bumper sticker on a very confused rock star. What songs talk of the notion? I'd rather drink from the ocean. This one might be a bit of a surprise, but hey, if you wanted to know every song on this list by simply looking at the thumbnail, I think you know which top 10 channel you should be subscribed to. Water is built around a pulsing guitar riff that is one of Breaking Benjamin's most sinister to date. And while it's nowhere near their heaviest song from a vocal perspective, the production coupled with some aggressive lyrics kick the intensity into high gear. Also, that's just fun to yell at the top of your lungs. So I'll stay After the band ran into some pretty serious internal legal issues during the beginning of 2010, it wasn't really clear if Breaking Benjamin was dead or alive. And it sure didn't help that the drastically shifting landscape within the music industry made it seem like by the end of the 2010s, rock music might be completely unrecognizable from what it was in the 2000s. Suddenly, Burnley announced that everything had been resolved and some new music was going to be dropped in 2015, Dark Before Dawn. Now, I'll be the first to admit I wasn't head over heels for this album, but there was one moment that really stood out to me as something special. And that moment? Yeah, Close to Heaven. The vocal delivery and truly beautiful melody makes for some fantastic rock music. And it proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that even after that long absence, Breaking Benjamin still had something special. Fans of Breaking Benjamin will no doubt be aware of the fairly consistent lyrical themes of struggling with addiction, self-loathing, anger, and despair. But over the past few years, there have been subtle traces of hope beginning to appear. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they're turning into Skillet or anything. Oh, yes. They're just getting a little more, positive than they used to be. And I think this in large part has to do with Burnley getting sober after years of battling the bottle. And yes, I'm well aware of the health struggles that he's been dealing with. So I know he's not living in a freaking fairy tale land, but he does seem to be in a better place than he was back in the 2000s. Down is a perfect recent example of this subtle lyrical shift. And while that's cool and all, what takes this track to the next level is the memorable melody, anthem-like chorus, and bridge that rocks a lot harder than you expect it to. On top of all this, the song features fantastic drum work that really complements the momentum. What we have here is a track that not only adopts a very dark tone, but also displays Burnley's incredible ability to write some truly heart-wrenching lyrics. After coming to the realization that most of his life has played out in vain, he desperately seeks forgiveness from a loved one, while simultaneously pondering if he's even worth a second chance. Yeah, that's some bleak stuff right there. While You is one of Breaking Benjamin's simplest songs to date from an instrumental standpoint, the melody here so perfectly captures the emotional core of the track that it propels it into the realm of things I care about, which is remarkably impressive considering just how minute that list really is. Conversations, especially arguments, can be complicated, and just like some songs, they have the tendency to ebb and flow when it comes to the level of intensity. One minute you're yelling at the top of your lungs, then the very next you're whispering how much you really care about the person you just verbally assaulted. People are remarkably stupid. I've never had an argument because I've never been wrong, but if I were to ever encounter such a moment, I have a feeling it would play out a lot like this song does. And yes, I mean both lyrically and musically. So, considering the fact that Breaking Benjamin is a rock band, stands to reason they would have a handful of tracks that exist for the sole purpose of rocking one's face off. And while I'm not downplaying the lyrics here, for me, Sugarcoat has always been a truly incredible display of their aggressive sound. Ben growls, the drums pound, and the guitar riff and solo propels the track forward at a heart-racing pace that you can't help but nod your head along to. Also, according to iTunes and Spotify, it's one of the least listened to tracks from Saturate, which is just mind-numbingly stupid, people, for real. It's below No Games. I mean, no offense, but if that's your favorite Breaking Benjamin track, your taste in music sucks. Sorry, I'm just being serious. At least it's better than whatever track 6 was from We Are Not Alone. Pretty sure that song was asking to be forgotten before it even started. Fade away to the wicked world we live, and I become the dark. Tear-jerking ballads may not be the first thing that comes to mind when the topic of Breaking Benjamin is brought up, but my gosh, does The Dark of You deliver an emotional sock to the gut. Burnley's soft vocals do an incredible job of showing just how versatile he is as a vocalist. And there's something about the song coming to a close with the lyrics, "Save this selfish world," that just hits really close to home. Not that I am in any way selfish or a part of the so-called world that is the human race, but, you know, I can still look and gawk at you people. Say goodbye as we dance with the devil tonight. Don't you dare look at him in the eye. This right here is some truly fantastic radio rock. The energy is great, and it's arguably one of their catchiest melodies to date. Also, and more importantly, it's one of my personal favorite displays of Ben's non-growling vocals. But don't let that statement mislead you. Just because he's not growling doesn't mean he's not singing with intensity, because Dance with the Devil is definitely a full-on rock song. Remember a little earlier how I mentioned the value of music that has the ability to rock one's face off? Well, Believe goes above and beyond in this department, pretty much knocking the listener's hypothetical face into a state of never-ending orbit around the earth. It rocks hard and it rocks heavy. Now, I'm gonna dive into my interpretation of the lyrics because saying they're a little complicated is a bit of an understatement. And for those who have already heard the track, you'll no doubt know what I'm fixing to address. At first glance, this track rolls out some pretty thick, how do I say it, rapey vibes, and the use of the aggressive tone and vocabulary kinda made me wriggle in my seat a little bit the first time I heard it. But after putting a lot of thought into it and really dissecting the lyrics, my interpretation of the track radically changed. I think what Ben is trying to get at here is how aggressively certain individuals, people groups, or organizations will cram a belief system down your throat. Whether it's the media, politicians, organized religion, or even your own family, everyone wants you to believe something. And I think this song is about Ben lashing out against that. Is this the right interpretation of the track? I don't know. I didn't bump into Ben this morning to ask him, but chances are he would say it means whatever you would like it to mean, which is the exact same as saying Spots is 100% on point with his assessment, and you should all take every word he says as gospel. Thank you, Ben. You're a peach. If I had to, I would put myself right beside you. Diary of Jane is one of the biggest rock songs to come out of the mid-2000s, and for good reason. It's a powerhouse of a track with a ton of memorable moments. I love the aggressive tone, unforgettable guitar lick, Ben's vocal range being masterfully displayed, and to top everything off, it features one of the best drum hits in popular rock. It's like a sucker punch to the jaw, and I'm perfectly aware that it's a weirdly specific aspect of the track to focus on, but considering the fact that everyone and their unwilling grandmother has probably heard this song at some point, I wanted to point out something that few others have. Also, Diary of Jane is not a love song. It's about the dangers of obsession and how easily it can be masked as love, which can ultimately lead to both parties being drastically hurt from the experience, and therefore cementing the whole thing in the, quote, Diary of Jane. Did you hear that, Janet? If the next time this song comes on the radio, you tell me that Ben wrote it because of his undying love for you, I swear I'm going to jump off the frickin' countertop. Dear Agony definitely had a lot of solid moments on it, and while the rest of the world got excited about songs like I Will Not Bow and the title track to name just a few, I was that weirdo looping crawl. I'm completely aware that a good chunk of the tracks I've ranked below this one are arguably more impressive from a lyrical, instrumental, and even a melodic standpoint, but I think there's something to be said for a song that can so perfectly translate to a live setting. And what we have here is exactly that. It is a rare moment when I listen to Crawl that I don't scream along once the chorus drops. And rest assured, if I ever found myself at a Breaking Benjamin concert and they happened to play this one, you better believe I'd be screaming at the top of my lungs. Which I know makes zero sense considering the fact that I am made entirely of polyester and plastic.
Tell me how it ends, it's alright. Show me how defenseless you really are.
There are few tracks so aptly named. The atmosphere and mood on So Cold matches up perfectly with the chilling title, and considering the fact that the song was written with the film 28 Days Later in mind, it makes even more sense. There's a lot to love here, but what has always stood out to me is the guitar lick and riff that carry the track. Don't get me wrong, I thoroughly enjoy the opening guitar lick for Diary of Jane, but when it comes to Breaking Benjamin's library of material, So Cold takes the cake for memorable lickage. I know, it's ballsy to have a song that's not even a year old this high on my list, but, and listen closely, this song is freaking incredible, so y'all can just deal with that. The lyrics, vocals, and melody are the key for me here, and I know you're probably like, Spots, why don't you just say you like everything about the song instead of breaking things into meaningless categories of significance? And to that I say, that's actually a pretty good point. PJ did a pretty solid job of covering this song on his review for Ember, so if you want specifics, check that out. Now, for the #1 Breaking Benjamin song that has ever been recorded. What? I'm forgetting the list of honorable mentions? Alright, now that we got that out of the way, track numero uno para Breaking Benjamin. Are we gonna go?
So sacrifice yourself and let me have what's left. I know that I can find the fire in your eyes. I'm going all the way.
Probably not a surprise considering its absence up to this point, but Breath is the best Breaking Benjamin song of all time. But Spots, what about No, You're Wrong? Lyrically, this song explores the complex topic of love, but it goes way deeper than that. Burnley realizes that being with this individual is ultimately doing way more harm than good, So, in spite of his love, he berates the person in an attempt to push them away to safety. Lines like, "Sacrifice yourself and let me have what's left," and "This will all be over soon, pour the salt in the open wound," become immensely bittersweet when it's paired with the idea of self-sacrifice. Also, that opening line, "I see nothing in your eyes," man, that cuts deeper than any expletive ever could. And when you think about him saying it while trying to hold back tears because he still loves the person, it's emotional. At least, I'm assuming that it is. I have the emotional range of an avocado, so you tell me. On top of the truly brilliant lyrics, the melody is incredible, and Burnley's vocals are so riddled with emotion that he's either a fantastic actor or he's being vulnerable with the listener, and I'm inclined to go with the latter. Breath is a spectacular rock song that brings so many aspects of what makes Breaking Benjamin a great band to the forefront. Okay, that is all. But before you leave, I have a proposition. If you enjoyed this video and want me to, perhaps one day, I don't know, make another one, I'll need a little something from all of you. Like this video, share the crap out of it, and blow up the comment section, because PJ still has no idea I'm uploading to his channel. And the only way I'm gonna leave a footprint here is if I get more famous than him. Not that he's anywhere close to fame, but you know what I mean.